explosion in numbers, as opposed to, 3 or 4 years ago, when there were 2 judges in Wyoming and 1 judge in Montana. We've had a really big roles in our community, and that's actually a very cool thing. And we're at a point where we're starting to get where we can kind of grow organically from within. There are L2s in Montana, there are L2s in Wyoming. So we're going to talk a little bit about recruiting judges, what to look for when we're recruiting judges, and how to kind of groom them and get them into the system, the judge family, get that kind of in that organization. So I want to start with a question. I hate PowerPoints. There's no PowerPoint for this presentation. Woo! Thank you. But I do like group discussion and group conversation. So I want to ask you guys first, you guys who are in your communities, who are looking to grow your judge community, how do you spot, it starts with one person, what do we look for in potential judges? How do I look into it? I go to a store I've never been to before. How do I go, you and I should have a 5-minute conversation after that tonight. What do you look for? Yes?
Maturity.
Maturity is a big part of it. Define maturity for me, because there's a lot of people who are super mature who would not make good judges.
Can they run an event without running into bigger numbers?
Sure. Can I trust them to run a tournament? If I get hit by a bus, can they run a tournament? Sure.
Initiative.
Define the word for me.
Are they willing to take charge? Are they willing to go above and beyond their normal call as a player?
Sure. Absolutely. Stone has his hand up first.
The way that they interact with other players is
Yes.
one of the biggest things that I look for first.
Sure. Their engagement with the community. That guy who's over in the corner, it never ceases to amaze me. The guy who's over in the corner, who doesn't want to talk to anybody, who's just there to be the F&M boss that he knows he is, that comes up to me and goes, I want to be a judge. So you need to work on being a better person first. Ben, I'll tell you that.
They're already judging for you, and they just don't realize it yet.
Yes! This is one of my favorite ones, is when you go there and you see the guy who's the rules guru, who gets stuck putting stuff into Word, who's answering questions and doing everything that a judge does, who doesn't have the title. So, leader. Yeah, absolutely. What else? Yeah.
I mean, obviously, a modicum of like rules literacy. So,
Yep, that's something, and the next one that I can teach that.
yeah.
If I have somebody who's a great community person, I can get them better on rules. If I have somebody who's a rules guru who's also a jerk, it's hard for me to fix a jerk.
Greg, did you have something?
They gotta be interested. I mean, there's people that, they could have every ounce of rules knowledge in existence, they can be great people, but if they're not, they have no interest in actually getting that information passed around, they're not gonna make very good judges.
Sure. Some people just want to be a rules guru, and that's okay. They don't need to be judges. That's what the rules advisor program is for. Anything you want to add? They pretty much nailed everything I wanted.
Yeah, they really have. Some of the things that we had lined out was a leader. Obviously, a leader is a person who's already running things, a person who takes rules calls, handles troubled situations, generally guiding the group. And you can pretty well spot that as soon as you walk in a room. You'll see one person typically, or 2 people who are doing everything already, whether they, like Ben said, whether they realize it or not. Integrity is another thing that Nolan and I talk about, whether perceived or genuine. You want to expand on that, Nolan?
Sure. I look for when I'm looking for people who are judges, I look for that people who already have the trust of their community and already have especially I spend a lot of my time when I'm going into a new, or I'm working with new people that haven't been to them before. The people I look for are the ones who already have the trust of their community and that kind of, I don't want to call it strength of moral character because that carries more words than I want, but that kind of.
Which is the word that I use.
Right. But I look for that
That's,
stuff.
Noel and I actually had 2 different ideas, perceived and actual. Noel's was exactly what he said. Mine was strength and moral character. I don't want to bring a judge into, I don't want to bring somebody to the judge program that has morals. I just don't think it's a good reflection of the judge program.
Sure. And we have the luxury of exclusivity in that if someone is not going to be a good judge, we have the ability to say, you don't need to be a judge. And that's okay. And that's something that a lot of times new judges or new L2s have a hard time realizing is it's okay to tell people no. Or you have a lot of things you need to work on before I'm going to consider making you a judge. So let's say we found our hypothetical person. We've gone to a new store, we found our person. We've got, maybe we've got 2 or 3 who are interested, there's some interest and stuff. What do we do with these people? Like, how do we get them, like, how do we get them from, sure, I'm interested in being a judge, to, I'm ready to take this test, yeah?
Mentor them, get them, used to kind of running stuff and learning how to be a judge with, someone helping them along the way.
Sure. One-on-one mentorship is great, especially if it's something you can logistically do. Sometimes just mentorship is more of a distance thing, but those of us who've lived out here, sure. All kinds of hands ups. Yeah.
So one of the things that I generally like to have my O1 candidates do before I test them is make sure that they pass the rules divider test. It isn't a formal requirement, but I find that it helps make sure that I know and they know that their rules knowledge is in a place, and it also helps make sure that they're motivated to do stuff, and if they have something they need to do, they can get it done. I find that helpful as part of the process.
I'm scared of the rules advisor test because the rules advisor test is harder than the L1 test.
Sure. If they take the rules advisor test and they don't pass it, that's something we can work with from there. But I want them to have tried the rules advisor test and see how we go from there.
Sure. I use L1 practice tests in kind of the same way.
Sure.
To me, those are more accurate than the test than the rules advisor test. But yes, some kind of practice, even if it's just easy and hard practice, that's not the point. Having exposure to that test before they take it will increase their skill. Josh, you have your hand.
Also just make sure, give them a list of what they need to study, and if they continually come back up to you and say, well, what do I need to do, what do I need to do? And if they don't take the initiative themselves, make sure that they're also taking the initiative, and that you don't have to constantly push them through things. It is important to be able to take charge and take initiative yourself.
Sure, some level of initiative. Brian Sanic is his last name? The person who handles all the judging, who handles judging exams. Every month he puts out a list of, here's what's on the L1 and L2 tests, and specifically, here's what people are missing a lot. Keeping informed of those and helping your L1s dodge those pitfalls can be helpful. Who else had a hand? Eric.
I was gonna say, I like to give, especially early on candidates, I like to give them a task, whether that's take a practice test or go and judge an event or go and talk to some TO about helping out at events or something like that. But don't overwhelm them with things. I've met a lot of candidates who were actually really good, but without being able to go and meet with them one-on-one, sometimes it's overwhelming to be like, you need tests, you need to judge events, you need to do a bunch of steps in order to get there. And just breaking that down into smaller things and saying, look, do this one thing and come back to me and tell you how you did. And then we can go forward from there.
So that would be back mentoring.
Yeah. I was going to say something along with that, but also making sure that they actually have their own, like their judge absence because I know that was actually when I got the rules, that was the most difficult thing was getting my least attitudes.
Because remember to speak up, people behind you might not be able to hear you.
Have them go ahead and go to an event, even if they're gonna go there and try to, do a practice test with you, ask them questions for the event, have them know that they have to push the chairs, they have to pick up trash, they have to do these things that have nothing to do with the thing. A lot of people become uninterested at that point. They'll be like, nope, I don't wanna be a janitor, I don't wanna do this.
And it can kind of be a litmus test too. Like, we have to set up 50 chairs right now. What was their response?
One thing I like to do is, before I'll test anybody usually, is to not just have them go to an event, but actually have them judge under me at the event and see how that actually works. Like, for example, one person graded the rules and really wanted to be a judge, and then after round 2, she came up to me and said, I don't want to be a judge anymore because I don't like having to tell players they're wrong in like the actual judge calls. And so kind of lets people know maybe it's not what they really wanted, or maybe it is, but it's a good.
Sure, giving them some experience, whether it's shadowing, whether it's judging under them, giving them a chance to do that's great.
Great. Similar with what Brian was saying, have them work under me and try to get them to have some interactions with the players, with calls, and try to get them in a position with difficult calls so that you can have experience with that. So the first time you try to take them home, they're not completely lost.
Okay. If I could deviate for just a second. So most of you were responding, or at least you're level 2, Brian, you're level 2. What if you're a level 1
thoughts on that is so similar to what we do for level 2 to level 3, where you kind of want to get, how should I say, you want to see if you can try to work under multiple L1s, get recommendations, so that if an L2 or an L3 or a judge conference comes on, then you can talk to an L2 to potentially get to L1, and then you have 5 people who will back you who are also L1 that say this person would be a good judge.
We actually had this situation. I became a judge because my level was 4 Unit 1, and then I went back home because it was in the college town, and I went back home for a while, and we needed another judge. And Sean here, he was ready, maturity-wise, he just needed rules knowledge and some other stuff. And I think it's like Adina and Lee were the closest judges, and they're kind of far. But so Sean had to make the effort to reach out to them on Facebook and learn it.
Okay. What type of resources would you use? Lee, your hand's up.
This would actually happen to me because I live in southeast Idaho where there was nothing for about 3 hours. So there wasn't even L1s, there wasn't L2s. And the only way to go online is to actually go look for the regional coordinator. So saw Jeremy and Ricky, that was a good start. And they helped guide me to the process where there are some forums you can join if you're trying to make L2. They ask you questions, you can participate in that. And there's lots of magic judges, they have all the knowledge pools and things. So you can actually kind of integrate yourself in the community.
So you
Even
know
if
your
you're physically removed, you can start joining the Facebook communities and participate remotely.
One thing the judge program has done a great job of is creating a lot of resources to let judges communicate with other judges.
So what kind of resources do we use? Yeah.
Well, this was actually
Okay.
the previous question. As an L1, just because you are not able to test other L1s, does not mean that you can't mentor other L1 candidates or other L1s that you work with. You have knowledge and you can share that knowledge and you can have them work a tournament with you, and you don't necessarily have to be the one to test them, but you can get them to the point where they're ready to test. So when they show up at an event or a conference, they've already got all the skills that they need, and they just need to have somebody test them.
So expanding on what Adina just said, in our community in Sheridan, we got a judge. We started the judge program through a benefit tournament. Noel was gracious enough to come over and work the benefit tournament for us, and said, "Hey, anybody interested in being a judge?" Most specifically looking at me because I was kind of doing everything that we talked about earlier. Once I certified, I had other people in the community who said, "Hey, Patrick, we're kind of interested in being a judge." And since then, although we're missing one, I don't see Tyler, we've certified in Sheridan where there was 0, we went from 0 to 6 in less than 2 years. Which I think right now in Wyoming, Sheridan's got the biggest concentration of judges.
In my community, in Salt Lake, Eric Parkinson and I have been running judge classes, and we've been going to local stores. I unfortunately had to drop out due to some time commitments from doing over the last year or so. But very actively, we would get players, and even players who weren't interested in becoming judges, just interested in knowing more about the rules through the Judge Wiki, and we would combine that. Very good to incorporate the players.
And the Judge Wiki, especially, that's exactly what I used when I was mentoring the judges that I work with that are in Sheridan now. We used a Judge Wiki. We broke it down. We did 10 weeks where we went through it. And once, like Adina said, once I got them ready, I called Noel. I said, "Noel, I need you to come over. We're having this event. I'm trying to do stuff to make sure you have something to do when you come over besides test people and go home. Come on over."
So from the last several comments, it sounds like the big thing is a player's commitment, whether as a judge already or just as a player, to go find the Judge Wiki, Judge apps, the Facebook pages, and then act on it.
And if you're an L1 in your area and you're kind of the leader of your area, or even if you're an L2 in your area, one of the most important things, Noel and I talked about this heavily, was open lines of communication. You need to know who you need to talk to. And we can all, like Lee said, we can all connect through forums, through Facebook, through things like that. My email address bar or my Facebook messaging is like hotkey to Adina, to Noel, to Jeremy. it's open lines of communication. I like to let these guys know, hey, this is what I'm doing here. And then they tell me, would you stop?
Jesus, you have 6 years.
How do you, also along the lines of Facebook communication with your prospective L1 candidates or really anyone you think might potentially be a good judge, don't hesitate to communicate with them and say, anytime you have a rules question, just ask me over Facebook and we can talk about it.
Yes.
Because it's really easy for you to just.
And that really goes back to mentoring. I'm fortunate enough that I have 3 of people that I consider my mentors in this room with Cassidy, if you didn't know. Nathan Long isn't here, he's another one, and Taz. Taz is another one that's been great to me.
But finding your mentor is a big one to do. I know that I am text a judge, it works people's phones. Like, it's not my name. It's that every Friday night my phone goes off and goes, can you explain how the card pyramids work? This has nothing to do with F&M, does it? And the judge there goes, in this game of EDH, it's not right there.
So once you've established all that, how do you know they're ready to be tested? What do you look for and say, okay, you're ready to be tested?
Got that certain something.
See, walks out of the room. It's early still.
Have they gone through all the requirements on the judgment?
Sure, have we checked off every box? That's a fair way to start. What else? Because there are people who can check off every box that I go, no. We're gonna wait a second, Eric. Yeah.
I mean, one of the checked off all the boxes, that one of the other ones is just that they're eager to want, asking. Because if they're not coming and saying, hey, I'm ready to test, you know, it's probably not ready to test.
Sure. Yeah.
They're comfortable making a call.
Sure, that's a big one. Do they have actual real experience judging and being on the floor? Do I trust this person to run the kind of tournaments that an L1 needs to run? Can they run a pre-release? Can they run a game day? Can I let them lose at F&M and not have a TO calling me and to kill me?
I was just gonna say the same thing, like, are the requirements that, and is their confidence level high enough that they think that they can pass it?
That's Ben, right? Ben?
Yeah.
What do you know?
I'm trying to say your name if I know you.
Yeah, basically, like, if I give this person a task in my tournament isn't going to be done without them immediately coming back to me and asking, like, how to do it or for guidance or.
Yeah.
Have they showed the maturity to be a judge? Like, have they stepped up, you know, they have some issues that we can't up themselves to be at that level?
They show working knowledge of the JAR and IBG.
For L1, I don't care about the IPG at all. But can they handle the penalties and stuff at F&M? Are they the person who has been a PTQ grinder long enough that you have to go, wait a second, no, you don't give a game loss at F&M? Seriously, I don't care why it is. Don't give a game loss at F&M.
Expanding on what Noel said, comfortability with that, being able to do what they need to do with that.
Kind of covered that, and yeah, I think I kind of stole our 4th point when I talked about, which is the role of L1s in growing our community. Because a lot of times I get, oh, Josh has.
So one thing, feedback from the community, you know, we talk to the players if you're not around that judge all the time, we take responsibility in judge events, talk to them about it, talk to the players, are they making judge calls in a respectful manner, are they being rough, or are they delivering the rulings confidently and in a manner that's respectful?
Sure. The other person you talk to is your TO, especially if it's somebody who you're mentoring from a distance. A lot of times if the TO is working with the judge, they can say, yeah, tournament went great, best thing ever, I want to put him on my payroll. That's a good sign. Or, no, I never want him to work in my store again. He has some things.
There's a judge payroll?
So you're an L1. Now what? You know what I found out when I was an L1? There's a whole lot of stuff I don't know. Whole lot of same thing when I was in martial arts. Every time you pass a rank, there's a whole lot of stuff you find out you just don't know.
So what do we do with these people now that they're, you passed your L1, you're a new L1, you're fully excited, you've been power vested in me by the Duelist Convocation International, you are now an L1 judge. What do we do with that person?
They can involve in the community and let them go do some of their own stuff and let them start to
absolutely getting them. One of the things that for a long time was a problem, we've gotten a lot better with the judge program, was we were very good at making L1s. We would have GPs where we'd make 25 new L1s on simple, or something like that. We quit doing that because we lose every L1 we do like that, just wouldn't be there. Yes, sir.
One thing I like to do, we talk about tasking before they become L1s. I like to task them as well afterward. Maybe not task them, but just ask them, like, there's an upcoming PPTQ, there's a GPT coming up. Would you be interested in being involved in that? Just kind of gauge where their interest is in terms of continuing as a judge. Maybe they want to go to level 2. Maybe they're fine at level 1. You don't want to push it, but just kind of gauge where they're at. That way you can kind of point them in the right direction, or just let them be if they kind of just want to stay as a store judge.
Sure. A lot of times my post-test, past interview consists of, what do you actually, right now, what are you wanting out of the judge program? Are you on the, someday I want to be the black shirt at GP, or I want to go man with power and take Jeremy's job, or I want to, I just want to make sure my store has awesome F&Ms. Finding out what they want and giving them the resources to do that is very important.
Make sure they still know that there's resources and that you're still there, especially because they don't know everything yet and they need help. I mean, even, as you go higher, you're still gonna need to ask questions, so.
Just a personal question for the group, like, I'm trying to get an L2 right now, I'm trying to get into compliments when I was on the East Coast was really hard, it's easier out here, right?
I would say it's reasonably, like, the trick, we're actually, there's a wonderful class you should go to, the cast is teaching later today, that answers this question very, very well. The short answer is make sure that you've made your desire to work compliments known to the people who are choosing their staffs. A lot of times if there is a comp RE element in Wyoming, Adina and I are probably head judging it. If you'd like to get on comp staffs, we can get you there. So know the people who are selecting judge staffs and visit with them and explain, here's what I want, here's what I'm willing to do, please put me on side. It's very similar to applying to a GP. But I'm gonna let Cassie do that because that's not my class.
In the same vein as that, make sure that they are like decently networked with the other L1s so that they can communicate between each other as far as judging GPTs, judging IQs, making sure that they
You can also find out about it through Judge Apps. Judge Apps is a great resource out there, and you can find all sorts of stuff.
The other thing is make sure you use your kind of local community channel. Make a big deal out of people getting their L1. Announce it on the Northwest Facebook group. If you have a state Facebook group, throw it on that. Like, get the conversation going and make sure that getting L1 is a big deal. And we want to welcome those people into this community. So making don't get me wrong, you don't have to throw a party for Pennsylvania's an L1. But that would be fun. There's a this is your L1. Your L2. I like this idea more. Just coming up.
I would encourage you to, if you just came in on one, to keep working on the skills that got you there. Remember that while I passed my L1 doesn't mean you don't need to pay attention to new rules anymore, or you don't have to still figure out how layers work and that kind of stuff. Like, continuing to work those skills makes them more instinctual and makes them more innate so that you don't have to think about them all the time necessarily. Like, you get really familiar with where so you can just fix problems when they come up, as they occasionally do. Just working on different areas, even if you're not looking to work competitive relevance, if you're just looking to be a store judge, there's still things that you can improve on, and there's always things that you can work on and hone and really become expert at.
Out west, sometimes we have the challenges of big distances between places, so you may qualify a guy and not see him for a long period of time, so you may not know how he's doing in the community, even though there's these online forums. So a personal touch can go a long way, whether it's a phone call, an email, or just a post on Facebook. Just ask them how they're doing. Sometimes starting up that conversation may be all they need to take that next step, but they don't know how to do it, and quite frankly, some people are afraid of asking for that.
Absolutely. Just picture there, make sure you're connected with people, they're having a good time.
I was going to say, there's a lot of discussion from the higher levels, like once you start doing PPs and stuff. And the biggest thing that people get out of the judge program is the theory and friendships that they've made and stuff like that. And I think to a certain extent that actually is a lot less attentive to in the lower levels. So just be a friend to your fellow ones. Don't just like grind them up and then say, cool, you passed
Sure, and that's a big, that is absolutely a thing, is, you know, he has a big scary number after their name. Obviously, they are a terrifying and imposing figure. I want to talk real quick because a lot of times I see when I'm having this conversation, especially this group has a lot of L2s in it, so they're going to ruin my fun immediately. But with L1s, they go, you know, well, what can we can't make new judges, we can't grow the community, that's the L2's job. I argue that that's not the case. Does anyone else have a point on that? Like, what role can L1 serve in growing our community? Sure.
I mean, I just recently got L1 in February, and I immediately had a couple of players that my FMs, you know, come to me and ask if I could start entering them as, you know, to be a judge. So I went ahead and started, you know, working with them, helping them to, you know, look at, you know, doing their rules advisor tests and trying to get them in and help judge some events and stuff with me, and I mean, immediately start helping people out. It's the same as, you know, if you weren't that level 1 judge, you help out, you know, people, teach them.
Sure, absolutely. Mentorship, you don't have to have two after you I got about 3 minutes left. Guys,
So, L1s, I would argue that L1s are actually the most crucial part of growing our community, specifically because the majority of people who are going to be playing Magic are people who are playing FNMs or, like, in our area, IQs. You won't see very many IQs and very many FNMs run by L2s. So we are the face of the judge community for most of the players.
Yeah, absolutely.
We show them how to be a good judge, and that inspires them to potentially be a judge themselves.
Absolutely. You know, L1 being at a store level, also know the people who would make good judges. They're more likely to know that. I got about 2 minutes. Does anybody have any words they absolutely feel needs to say on this topic before we go on? All right. So I think we're pretty much ready to wrap up. Obviously, guys, it starts with one person. Growing our community is all about that, you know, finding the people, getting them trained, getting them in, and getting them tied into our community.
It's absolutely important to remember that even after you become an L1, that you are, as Noel puts it, the boots on the ground. You are the positive, and I stress positive, example of the judge community to your players. And if you have somebody who's interested in becoming a judge, you are going to be their first person. Even if they go to start beginning to talk to an L2, they're going to still come back to you, and you will still continue to be their mentor in some capacity.
And with that, we are out of time, so we're going to go ahead and stop. We're going to take a 3-5-minute break. The hotel should be going into the wall. Again, I don't have to schedule a hand.
10:45.
10-minute break.
Oh, 10-minute break.
Use some of that time to fill out your feedback form.
Yeah, this way extra time we would have
Feedback.
What is that? If you're looking for Brooks class, it will be on this half. If you're looking for Lee's class, it will be on this half.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
What? Comments went long and should have been cut